For much of its past, Orkney has been at the crossroads of a maritime world stretching from the South Pacific to the North Atlantic. From the 17th century onwards, ships bound for distant lands would call into Stromness for water and supplies. The town's motto, Per Mare, means from the sea, sustained by the sea or by the sea, a nod not only to its geographical location but also to the lifeblood that has sustained the town for generations. Stromness Museum is one of Scotland's oldest independent museums. For more than 160 years, it has amassed unique and fascinating artefacts that tell the stories of Orcadians at home and abroad, and contribute to the museum's outstanding social, natural and maritime history collections. I'm Jeanette Park, Curator of Stromness Museum, and I'd like you to meet some of the supporting team to explore, discover and enjoy their stories and connections to the museum.
I'm Siobhan. I am Collections Manager at Stromness Museum and I have a background in archaeology. I was born in Kirkwall and I grew up on the island of Wyre. The sea is a really important part of my life, and that has obviously influenced my interest in archaeology, and specifically interested in how people engage with animals, seabirds and marine mammals. My favourite objects in the museum are the Scrimshaws. I think those objects are fascinating and part of Stromness' story, because Stromness was the last port of call for whaling ships when leaving Britain. Scrimshaw is a type of handmade craft. It's created by carving the teeth and bones of whales and other marine mammals. Scrimshaw is made first by cleaning and polishing the tooth. The next step is engraving or scratching the tooth with a picture and then rubbing a pigment into the lines to make that drawing stand out. And this pigment could be from a variety of sources, including soot from the ship's ovens, squid ink or even lamp black. Other Scrimshaw objects would also be carved out of the whale's teeth, and that includes this pair of eagle heads with glass eyes. And one of the most popular among visitors and staff is this Scrimshaw, which shows drawings of a polar bear and cub.
My name's Amy and I'm a custodian at Stromness Museum. My favourite part of the museum is the natural history collection, mainly the fossil fishes. One of my favourite objects is the Homosteus milleri, which is a fossil fish from the Devonian era, over 400 million years ago, when Orkney was part of Lake Orcadia, which was a lake basin in a big desert around the equator, full of these armoured fish. I really like this object because I have a special interest in paleobiology, which I study from an archaeological perspective, but would love one day to study from a paleontological perspective. It was found actually in Stromness by Hugh Miller, for which the fossil's named, and he later wrote about it in his book, Footsteps of the Creator, and he has this lovely term, old even beyond tradition's breath, which I think just speaks volumes when you're upstairs in the natural history part of the museum, around all those fossils from all these different periods that last millions of years.
I'm Norna, Exhibition Assistant at the Stromness Museum. I'm also an artist based in Stromness, where I was born and grew up. As you can imagine, the museum is full of incredible objects, which have been a great source of inspiration for many creative people. And for me, it was the wonderful Travis board. For centuries, this simple nautical device was used by seafarers as a way to record a ship's direction and speed over a 4-hour period. It used pegs attached to string to mark the appropriate areas, and this information was then transferred onto a chart. I was intrigued by how the line was used as a connection through time and space, and of how voyages or journeys were drawn on maps. This idea led me to create several calligraph prints depicting abstract portraits of my family. At that given time, each print represented our individual life journey, and I used the line to illustrate the gradual passing of years. These became more complex as knowledge and experience was gained, creating intricate patterns and forms. So just as the Travis board was used in chart plotting, this was my way of capturing my family's journey through life at that specific time.
I'm Antonia and I'm one of the trustees. I live in Stromness, just down the street from the museum. I'm also an archaeologist, and today I'm going to introduce you to the Scarabray Buddo. This amazing object is carved from a piece of whalebone and is around 5,000 years old. It was found in the houses at Scarabray in the 19th century and is one of only a handful of figurines known from the British Neolithic. It is one of the most important archaeological artefacts in the museum. It might have been a religious or ritual object, but could have just as easily been a child's toy. What do you think?
I'm Katie and I'm an exhibition assistant at Stromness Museum. I grew up in Orkney and I particularly love all the examples of marine species that we have in the museum. I've recently taken up snorkeling and I love going out and seeing what lives beneath the waves. Some of the specimens we have in Stromness Museum, like this horse mussel, are very, very old, long-lived species. It's got barnacles, tube-encrusting worms, bryozoans, which are little colonial animals all attached to it. And horse mussel reefs are really important because they provide this ecosystem service, a place for things to live. So having these old specimens in the museum, they can actually be useful for scientific research and telling us how the climate has changed over the past couple of 100 years. And I started learning about these horse mussels when I was learning about Scapa Flow. So where the wrecks of the German fleet are, there are some large horse mussel beds and where they provide this home for lots of other marine organisms to live as well. Some of the things you see in the Natural History Gallery is the only chance that you might have in your life to see some of these species up close, and that's what I think makes it really special.